Welcome to Daytona, everybody. A little bit of cloud cover is moving across this legendary facility as we get set for the run to the gold medal in STU. It is the 2015 SCCA Runoffs, the run to the national championships, presented by Garmin Verb. Our coverage today brought to you by Mazda. I am Greg Creamer, joined by Jeff Lepper, Hayward Wagner in pit lane, and it has been one of those interesting days, Jeff. At points of the day, we've had hot, brutal sunshine just heating up the humidity. Now we've got a little bit of cloud cover. It cools things off a little bit, makes it a bit more tolerable for both car and driver.
Yeah, it really does, and we'll see how this plays out in our S2U category, as some cars are normally aspirated, some cars are turbocharged. Will the turbo cars start to have an advantage in the closing afternoon with this clouds coming out?
Yep, obviously with turbos, you've got, they make their own atmosphere, but they also run real hot, so there's always that little bit of a trade-off, and I said it's the cloud cover is good for race cars, good for drivers. I'm guessing it's also good for pit reporters. Haywood?
Into that. It has definitely dropped temperature here, maybe 10, 15 degrees over the last 15 minutes. Clouds have rolled in. Again, this is another one of those classes where you have a variety of tires running. Some brands love the heat. Some brands start to lose a little bit of grip when they get too hot. Typically here at Daytona with the long straightaways, everything can cool off a little bit, but the tires that excel in the cool may have a big advantage here in Street Touring U.
Boy, that's a very good point. Obviously, is there's only a couple of classes here that have in essence a spec tire, and as a result, you've got not just different manufacturers and the like here in terms of car manufacturers, but tires as well.
Yeah, with the Hoosier, the BF Goodrich, Goodyear's on the property. We've seen some Hancooks and some Falcon tires actually in one of the cars I saw a little bit earlier, so we'll see if that's going to play out race long. 40 minutes or 14 laps. These cars should get to that 14-lap barrier well before the 40-minute time limit if they do stay green. Pole was by Eric Heinrich in his BMW M3. That's the E30 chassis car. He's on BF Goodrich with Paget Pads, VAC in 2002. Racing.com sponsored with a 205.494, and you got to go back to a 206.9 from John Schmidt in the number 92 Honda Civic with Hoosiers on it, Redline, HPD, and then Anthony Simmers in his Volkswagen GTI. That's a turbocharged car sitting there with the Hoosier tires as well. Carl Young from Salinas, California, and the Thomas Lepper and Associates Chevy Cobalt, a turbocharged 2-liter, sitting in fourth place.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to be sure, and this is another one of the categories where we won't have a repeat champion. Andre Hartanto won it last year and was not able to make the trip here to Daytona, and so that's I think going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And now we have a treat for you, folks. It is called our Garmin Verb Fast Lap, as we give you an onboard look at this track here, and in this case, as we ride on board with our pole qualifier, Eric Heinrich, in that BMW Golf M3, as you pointed out, Jeff, the BF Goodrich Tires Paget and 2002 Racing.com machine, as he heads down here through turn 1, 2, 3. This is a tricky bit of this track, and obviously great onboard looks here.
Yeah, some good shots from this Garmin Verb, and you really get a good chance to see the elevation they're running here right at sea level and where the direction they're going. But those G-loads, you see them through this International Horseshoe, just touching the 2 Gs, so double the weight of that car on those loaded BFG tires.
Interesting to see here. Now, this is that infield kink. Very quick corner, pushing 3G there.
Yeah, just barely touching as you trip down through there, and it's a flat-out corner. You see him coming down through the gears. STU category, 3.2 liters or under, or you can run a 2 or 2.4-liter turbocharged car, so different layouts of different machines of cars here. You're allowed a sequential transmission. You can have a dog box gear. It's based on power to weight ratio for the cars, and I'm sure Hayward Wagner will give us a little bit better understanding of what these categories of cars are, but all start life as a production-based car. So these are the cars that you drive, the cars that people drive, the cars that, sports cars that you wish you could drive.
Absolutely, and I think that's the key here, and that's one of the neat things about the Sports Car Club of America. There's a class for virtually any kind of a deal. You've got the prototypical machines that run in prototype, and you've got cars all the way down to production-based cars here, and that's what makes it exciting. This is down that super stretch here, and then into the bus stop. Fun place.
Yeah, it really is. You see him just downshift one time, hit the brakes here, eat all the curbs you can, and These are softer suspension cars than, say, a Formula car that got a lot of travel on them, even though you do run a stiffer spring. When you come down through that transition onto the oval here in NASCAR Turn 3, you can see the closing rates for some of the cars here. And yes, these are, even though they are manually shifted, you still use the clutch on these cars when you go through the gears.
And as you come out of that bus stop, you saw some of the cones knocked down. This was recorded a bit earlier in the weekend, folks, so that this wasn't happening now. This was recorded during one of the qualifying sessions. Our thanks again to Garmin Verb. Again, not just a remarkable HD camera, but also combines data acquisition, interfaces with all of Garmin's products. Really is pretty remarkable. And Hayward, you heard Jeff start to tell us a little bit about these cars. Lots more to tell, and in part, different drive lines as well.
Absolutely. If you were a fan of SCCA World Challenge through the 90s and early 2000s, you're going to recognize some of these cars. This class was created to give the pro touring cars a place to play after they'd phased out of those series. As time has evolved, it's become a class where if you can write a rule structure for your car that gives a power-to-weight ratio that's consistent with the class, they'll let you come and play with it. We've got a rotary-powered RX-7 in this field. We've got turbocharged Volkswagen in this field. Rear-drive BMW, front-drive Honda. This is a tuner class. This is a place where people get an idea, they can go and race their idea and see how they stack up for a national championship.
Brave lad, too. Back to oncoming traffic and confident nobody's going to be doing the big swerve to get some heat in their tires. Nicely done, Hayward. Appreciate that information. And that's a good point, isn't it? I mean, with everything else we've been talking about, that tuner class, that's a great aspect of it, isn't it?
Yeah, you just saw that Scion FRS go by of Oscar Jackson Jr. as well. Speaking of that tuner category, running one of those Jackson Racing Superchargers, and that was a car that they built just for the runoffs. He qualified in a Honda CRX for the runoffs, running the STU category, and a Mazda Miata, doing everything he could to get qualified in the majors, and makes the debut with that car. Still development, but did qualify 6th here from Cal Club region with Oscar Jackson Jr.
Yep, Heinrich, as we are giving you the starting lineup across the top of the screen with that pole. Again, another driver who's fairly hungry here. He's made 3 starts in the runoff, Jeff. Twice he's had a bronze medal. That's the best he's been able to do, and he would really like to get this from his first tire rack pole position. So a great job for Eric Heinrich. Again, there you got the 92 of John Schmidt, the Hoosier Redline Oil HPD Honda Civic. He's a driver that also has a couple of medals, neither of them a gold at this point. He had a silver in 2000 at Mid-Ohio running in E-Production. And Anthony Simmers, a bronze last year in this class at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. So the top 3 in the grid all have medals, just none of them gold.
And John Schmidt doing double duty here this weekend. We'll see him tomorrow running in the STL category in a Honda Prelude, so making the most of his time here at Daytona.
And, obviously you're very involved in the STU category. That Thomas Lepper and Associates, yes, the name says something. That's your dad's team with Carl Young, and you've actually, along with your prep for us here, I know you've been doing a little wrenching trying to solve some issues with that car, and Carl throwing down a nice lap for 4th.
Finally, and that was really the final category in Thursday when he got a lap. So really, the laps that we started, the testing we got doing, we had to wait all the way till Thursday to get that Chevy Cobalt set up. Looking to see a good run for Carl Young. Been around this business for a long time, all the way back to his runoffs debut in 1992 at Road Atlanta. So he's got a lot of history in the runoffs, looking for that first podium spot here this weekend.
Let me throw out a fun little number for everybody to chew on here a little bit. 20 cars were entered here. A couple of drivers not getting times, but of those 20 entered cars, 13 of them making their first ever runoffs appearance. So rotating things around the country here obviously brings out some of the more local drivers to play here, and that's absolutely great. And there's evidence of a couple of the different approaches here to these cars. That BMW, that's a rear drive grunt car. That 92 Civic, that number 92 Civic, I should say, slip rear, front drive. Love the mix.
Yeah, it really is. And you got the 2 turbocharged cars in the second row, that Volkswagen GTI and the Chevy Cobalt. They're going to have the advantage here along with that supercharged Scion. You got the Honda on the inside there, starting in the 5th position of Ian Gervin, and the King Motorsports Hoosier tired Acura GSR running the K24 engine car, so a 2.4 liter from the Acura TSX in that car.
So lots of variety, but what we expect is great racing, and we are just about to get it underway here for STU. Again, the pace car will make the move down into pit lane, and when the field tends to be sort of crowding the pace car like that, as soon as that pace car moves, fairly often we get a fairly early green to give them a little bit of time to try and sort out here before they get down into turn one. Pace car is in. There we go. The speed builds. We are green for STU here at Daytona, and it is an outright drag race right now, Jeff. Side by each. Heinrich to the inside, Schmidt to the outside, and the brakes and then BMW suddenly come to the fore, and Anthony Simmers able to hang on to third.
Yeah, watch the torque and the turbo out of that Volkswagen GTI, though, in that Chevy Cobalt. The Acura Integra on the inside of Carl Young as they come down through the bus stop. They make contact, and both cars hook up and slide down to the inside. Heavy damage to that Chevy Cobalt on the right side for Carl Young. Looks like his race is done.
Absolutely. That is such a shame. Early in the going here, and a couple of cars just going for the same spot, Jeff, and it was a pretty aggressive move there.
Yeah, it really was. And you see the Integra there just got on that curb, made contact with Carl Young down to the inside. His race is over, but the battle's still up at the lead here. We'll see. Looks like we might be full course yellow.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think, obviously, where Carl Young ended up, awfully close to the track edge here. We'll certainly watch that, as it is Eric Heinrich leading with Schmidt in second, then a little bit of a gap back to Simmers, and it looks like moving up. Is that the Scion that has made a nice move, perhaps up into fourth?
Yeah, Oscar Jackson up into fourth. Good run for him and getting a great start using the torque of that supercharger to get through.
Well, at this point, still showing green as we're watching here, but look at the run now. Here comes Schmidt. Again, that car is very, very slippery, and it gets up into the draft. That BMW punches a little bit bigger hole in the air, but at a certain point now, the full course caution comes out, Jeff, and I think the officials were hoping against hope that maybe somehow that car would be able to self-clear. Just not going to happen. You can see that.
That was a heavy hit to the right front, heavy damage to that car, and that's going to be kind of a heartbreak for Carl Young. Thought he had his best chance at a podium here with the track configuration around Daytona Speedway. The Chevy Cobalt heavy on the speed here, and was really looking forward to that. There's the good news, though, as Carl is out of the car. They're going to go to the kill switch there in the back and cut power just in case there's a fuel leak or something going on. They got two main cutoffs on that car, so it's just a heartbreak. And that car's had a lot of history, both in the Pirelli World Challenge and the Coney Challenge Series and the IMSA and the SCCA Series. I think that might, unfortunately, knowing the history of this car, that might be the end of that Chevy Cobalt. That's the car that actually came flying through the air and hit the bridge at Mid-Ohio.
Get out of my head. I was just going to ask. That's not the car that had a close introduction to the bridge at Mid-O, but it was, huh?
Yeah, that was coming down in the turn number one, and I got clipped by Brian Till. And I believe it was either John Schmidt or David Rouse driving one of the hard Accords, and the car flew up in the air and hit the bottom of the bridge at Mid-Ohio. So, like I said, that car, unfortunately, might be done with its history. But like I said, there's Carl showing his frustration, unfortunately, to the Acura Integra of Ian Gervin, and just made some contact there, dropped to the inside there, bounced into that Cobalt, and put him into the wall.
Well, you always, think about, well, maybe if I can just make a bit of a leap here right at the start, it'll solve. But as the old adage goes, you rarely win the race in the first couple of corners, but you sure can lose it. And that's what happened here. And that one, absolutely nothing Carl Young could do about it. He was a passenger as he was ushered off the track. And that is a tough way to start your runoffs. And obviously a lot of laps yet to unfold. But since we're under full course caution, we're going to step away here for just a couple of minutes. We will be back for the restart. Stay with us. The 2015 SCCA National Championship Runoffs, presented by Garmin Verve, is being brought to you by Mazda. Mazda, driving matters.
16 wide eyes. Driver's license took 2 tries. Bought a Roadster secondhand. Playing parties with the band. Loaded up, off to state. Hijinks, tailgates, starter, midsize, family cruising. Now in the garage, something new reminds you of when you were you.
It's time to face facts. You're a gearhead. You wish the freeway on-ramp was your personal racetrack. Well, buckle up, buddy, because the Sports Car Club of America wants you. With 40,000 members and events across the country, the SCCA has all the excitement you can handle. Dance the blacktop two-step with SCCA Solo. Get down and dirty with SCCA Rallycross. Or go wheel-to-wheel with SCCA Club Racing. Hit the track with the SCCA, where America's best drivers race.
We continue under caution here at Daytona International Speedway, the 2015 SCCA National Championship Runoffs, presented by Garmin Verb. Coverage of this 52nd running of this absolutely marvelous event, being brought to you by Mazda. As we're having a look here, that is the number 55 of Ian Gervin out of Crawfordsville, Indiana, the King Motorsports HPD Hoosier Acura Integra. And there's the number 23, and that's the car that Ian got into, the 23 of Carl Young, that Thomas Lepper and Associates Chevy Cobalt Coupe. And Jeff, the good news is the car seems to be pretty free moving.
At least it rolls, so that means we can get it into the trailer at least. But, you know, we don't know what happened there, if Ian got it on the inside a little bit. It's just close quarter racing on the first start of the race here. And that's what happens when you're racing for a national championship, trying to go here for that win in STU. But looks like we're going to be able to go green this time by.
Yep, lights out on the pace car. So we'll get this one going again as we've completed 1 of 14 laps. Now this will complete the second lap as they come by, I think, and we'll be able to get going after it. Again, there is a 40-minute time limit, but this caution relatively short-lived, so obviously things ought to be able to go. And there's the green. We are back at it, and again, we'll see Eric Heinrich able to get on the hammer here. He's got John Schmidt right up behind him. That BMW, that M3, has a bit of torque to it, and you can see pulls just a little bit and real good on the brakes. And, ooh, big move here, though. And there could be another bit of, wow, it's close as the Scion knifes to the inside.
Yeah, Oscar Jackson gets back around Ian Mullen, who got a great start, drove right around that Acura Integra. And I don't know if that Acura has been hurt from that inside, or that incident that he had with Carl Young a little bit earlier. So we'll have to pay attention to that and see if Ian Gervin's going to have problems in that Acura. But good run for Oscar Jackson Jr. and Ian Mullen.
Yeah, Ian, another of the BMWs. A little bit different type of BMW, though, than our leaders, yes?
Yeah, it's a E36, so the newer Jenner chassis on the BMW 328 IS chassis.
And here we go, watching a little bit farther back in the pack. That is the number 74. Starting to make it. Boy, good start by William Fee in the OPM Motorsports entry. The Acura TSX has made up a little bit of ground. Had a good lap before that caution came out.
Yeah, great lap as he did as he comes back up and working through the field. So moves into the top 10 in that category car. But it is your pole sitter, Eric Heinrich, able to pull away from John Schmidt a little bit. And then Anthony Simmers, who was your STU National Champion points winner this year in the majors category, in third place.
Yeah, that says something about the caliber of drivers we have here. Now the drafting battle begins. You get up onto the banking here, and I mean, this is what we expect to see the entire race. And look at the closing speed. Once you get the toe in these cars, it just suddenly launches you, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the sitting duck there in the middle of that sandwich was Oscar Jackson Jr., but Mullen goes way through the bus stop there. The splitters on these cars, you don't want to damage that front end as he bounces. You see smoke coming out of it now. You quite possibly could have nailed an oil cooler or the oil pan as he bounced through the bus stop there. That BMW is hurt.
Oh, this is not good. Yeah, you can see that smoke billowing out the back. And I think a pretty smart move here driving the Scion as Oscar Jackson is just staying well up and clear of whatever that might be. Now, this will really get the corner workers, the course marshals around this track, looking at that car as they are in communication with race control. And here comes Gervin, a big move down to the inside, and is able to sneak by Jackson, at least temporarily. Now Jackson up on the high side. And, yep, there's a problem, and I think finally you can see that the 155 of Mullen realized his problem.
Yeah, he probably looked at the gauges there, knew that he had an issue, is not sure if he's got a braking problem or not, because he sort of didn't quite go into that braking zone there, and then just made a U-turn and came back around.
I wonder if he may have just ripped a brake line on that car, suddenly realized he couldn't get it slowed down, and so now he's just going to drive around, and I would think we might see him down into the pits. Meanwhile, Eric Heinrich's throwing that car around just a little bit as he is trying to stave off the presence of the number 92 of John Schmidt. I got to tell you, the first experience I ever had with Eric Heinrich was running an event at Road Atlanta. When the Runoffs moved from Road Atlanta, they sort of reinstituted what they called the ARC, the American Road Racing Champions, and they kind of billed it as the Club Racing National Championship. As Heinrich real loose through turn 6, Jeff, and this may give Schmidt his opportunity.
Yeah, it makes your momentum loss here through the oval, and it's going to allow John Schmidt to tuck in behind and catch a draft, maybe get enough to get around to make a pass in the bus stop. I think John Schmidt needs to get this done early if he's going to want a chance to get ahead of that BMW. Of course, the front-wheel drive versus wheel-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive notoriously are harder on the front tires and wear those fronts out a lot sooner than the BMW does the rear.
Well, and Heinrich put in his fast lap on Monday, the first day of qualifying here. Didn't run the next 2 days. And on the final day, on Thursday, it was actually Schmidt who was a tick quicker, about 0.3 quicker than Heinrich was. So we know that Schmidt's got some pace here, no question about it. And he is right there on his 6. And on that fast day on Monday, he was only, 0.4 slower than Heinrich then. He was able to close that margin up a little bit. So we might just see these two guys just sort of check off into the distance and go at it mano a mano.
They might want to do that just to start racing with themselves, because the last thing I want to do is bring Anthony Simmers or Oscar Jackson into the mix here. But you really see the better braking of that BMW into turn number 1 where it shines.
Yeah, it really does. And as I was, now that there's a little bit of a margin here, I was asked to come in and announce at the ARC, which turned into just an absolutely great race, a lot of fun, and was able to call Heinrich a couple of times there. And I remember, watching him going, this kid's got something. He really does have some pace here, and he's been fun to watch. And now seeing him running at the national championship level with this level of success and speed, pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a good run for him, and that's just a beautiful car. I love the E30 BMWs, and to have the Gulf oil color paint job on that. And you saw from that Garmin Verb onboard fast lap camera that we had, the inside looks just as good as the outside of that car. So just a beautiful car leading here in STU.
I think you bring up a good point. Obviously, the newer versions of the BMW understand slipperier, just the lines on it a bit different, but there's something so aesthetically pleasing about this body style. That just shouts BMW.
It really does. I mean, I think that really BMW became into its own with this chassis of car for the road racing sports car market on that E30 chassis, and now there's being a lot of those cars resurrected in racing again, as this is the M3 version, but even the stock 3 Series version in the spec E30 categories raced at club races all nationwide.
It's interesting here. We're talking about a class called STU, which ST under, and you were talking about it. Still, we're seeing trap speeds here, Jeff, over 155 miles an hour. John Schmidt just going 156 and a half.
And there's Ian Gervin pulling off. Looks like damage to his car. I'm not sure if there's damage or he's just had a motor problem or resulting in that incident that he had earlier with Carl Young. Looks like he has pulled off. His race is done.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, the amount of effort, sweat, perseverance that goes into just getting to the runoffs. You can do it through the majors, you can do it through the nationwide, you can do it by being a former champion, but no matter how you do it, it has taken a serious amount of effort, and then to have it all go away so early is just hugely frustrating.
Well, he did a good job getting it out of the way as well as not to cause a caution flag here for his fellow competitors. Oh! Damage there to your leader. There is Eric Heinrich, and there's looks like the wall has been moved a little bit. He's got some damage, something stuck under that left front tire either as he stopped in there, and I don't know if there was some damage with John Schmidt, who was running second place.
Oh man, I mean, those tires obviously covering that bit of pit wall, and you can see there was definitely, that has been moved, so not exactly sure what's happened, but Heinrich's car looks mortally wounded right now, and if he can't get that car reversed out in pretty quick order here, I don't see any way that we don't have to go caution again here. There's the number 92 of John Schmidt, and not seeing any kind of significant damage at all. So I don't know whether it just kind of stepped out on Heinrich at just the wrong moment or what, but wow, huge developments here, Joe.
It looks like they were pretty close crossing the line. Only 0.18 of a second separated the two cars, so we'll see if there was a replay of that incident or not. It looks like we're full course yellow because I believe the front splitter of Heinrich is stuck underneath this car, and that's what won't let him come.
Oh, looks like Heinrich maybe well, again, it's tough to tell. You were talking about how close they were, but Heinrich got into that
Looks like maybe
barrier.
it was all by himself.
Yeah, it might have happened, yeah. Again, just if that, you're committed at that point. If you're turning in and suddenly the back end steps out and you just charge into that a little bit, it clocked it. But again, can't see anything significant in terms of any damage on Schmidt's car at this stage. And we are now full course caution. So let's see. This is going to bring the field right back into play again. Anthony Simmers will join up behind Schmidt. Ian Mullen now, and again, Gervin with his issues. So Oscar Jackson and William Fee. Well, I'll tell you what, a opening few laps he's driven from 14th now up into 7th, and that might well be up into 5th.
Yeah, great job for him as he's got a great start and able to catapult himself up into a top 5.
And he's one of the guys that I've also had the pleasure of announcing for a few years here at the ARC. It's great to see some of these guys now with this class being nationally recognized and runoffs and gold medal eligible, to have these guys able to come in and show what they're capable of.
Yeah, I think Heinrich just did that all on his own. The way that you saw Schmidt's car react there to the end was really nowhere near Heinrich down into turn number 1. And as we'll see as he comes down through here, Heinrich's car just cannot get clear. A lot of debris down there as well.
Well, he keeps backing it up, trying to turn and drive out, and he can't. He needs to just back it up into that area outside of turn 1, and because it seems like that was at least moving in that direction a little bit here. But it's interesting. And we had seen Heinrich clearly could go deeper into the brake zone and would actually gap Schmidt a little bit when he did it. So it looked like Schmidt, when we saw that move to avoid, that's exactly what that was. Again, we didn't see what started this, but wow, a huge development here. I mean, the guy who's been on pole since day 1. Yes, he didn't run a couple of the sessions, but the first time he said was golden.
Yeah, and that third session was rain, so not a lot of these guys went out in the rain knowing that the weather forecast looked pretty clear here for the race on the qualifying day number 3, but that splitter ripping off the front of that BMW, and part of it still attached, so he is not able to continue.
This is going to be interesting because that Volkswagen, that GTI from Anthony Simmers, again, you were talking about the power plant in that car. How is that going to play out now relative to the one in that Civic?
Well, it's turbocharged versus normally aspirated, so they should have the advantage. Oscar Jackson in 3rd place in that Scion, that brand new car, supercharged. The BMW of Mullen behind him is normally aspirated, so a lot of different layouts and variations on the engine drivetrains here. See how this goes, because there is still 7 laps. We're just at halfway. Have a lot of time left to go as 2 full course cautions in this STU race now.
When you mentioned a real good point, I remember when Ian Mullen had that moment out there and he dropped way back, this caution is the only thing that could have maybe brought him right back into this, and he got it.
Yeah, that was what you're praying for and hoping for, and you hate to see it happen to a fellow competitor, but you'll take them as you can get them.
Yeah, sometimes it goes against you, and every once in a while when one goes for you, you got to just say, well, sorry about that, but I'm going to step up here and take it. And this really is going to turn this into a brand new race.
It really is. I mean, we'll see it. And I think that the guy that's going to help this the most is going to be those 2 front-wheel drive cars in the front. They're going to be able to conserve their tires a little bit and not have those fall off here in the later stages of the race. So Schmidt and Simmers seem to be in the catbird seat over Oscar Jackson and Ian Mullen. Don't count out Eric Thompson either. He's back there, sort of fell off the pace a little bit back to 8th, but that Mazda Miata able to be generally better on the later runs. And Will Fee got to be the drive so far here today, up to 7th place in that Acura TSX.
Yeah, that's just remarkable. By the way, John Schmidt was picked by Sports Car Magazine to win this thing, and it didn't. It looked like after that last qualifying on Thursday that maybe that was a bit more likely, because it sure looked like Heinrich had him covered here. So Schmidt now going to try and fulfill his destiny, as it were, and bring it home and keep the editors at Sports Car grinning.
You see Heinrich ripping that front splitter off that car a little bit too late, unfortunately.
Yeah.
A little frustration there you see in him, and probably, especially when it's by yourself, and obviously Ian Gervin getting his car pulled away by the safety crews, a good chance to clean up the cars that are stranded around the track.
Yeah, this is a class you don't normally see very much, attrition in. They're pretty reliable cars out here. We just had a couple of incidents, as you recall, and there's Heinrich just letting everybody know that he's okay. Anytime you have contact with the barrier, it is absolutely standard operating procedure that you crawl in the back of the ambulance, go to the medical center, just get looked at, but letting the crowd know here, nope, I'm good, and we'll go in and get checked out. I'm sure he's heartbroken, but otherwise looks to be okay. And, he's going, I forgot my wallet.
I think he's more concerned with how they're pulling his car to make sure there's no damage or not. But let me go turn the lights off real quick. I got to go run back. But we'll see how this STU race is going to play out. There is a lot of cutouts through this track, so they're only on the backside of turn number 2 down into the bus stop. I don't think they can get that car and the debris cleared off in time for us to go back to green. Might still be another lap under yellow here.
Yeah, and we just now we've completed half distance. It's in terms of lap count, it is 7 laps. We'll be completing lap 8. The bigger question is time. There is a 40-minute time limit, and right now we're just completing 19 and a half minutes here. So, with that kind of pace, we should still be able to sneak this one in and get the full lap count in.
Yeah, either way, it's going to be a battle royale in our STU category for the win.
All right, let's get down to pit lane here while we're under caution, find out what's going on down there. Hayward?
Guys, I just ran down and talked to the flag crew at turn 1. They said exactly what you would expect. It was a snap spin under braking. It looked like the car got either imbalanced or the brake bias was off, but he did spin to the inside, contact that inside wall. The second place car was not involved in the incident other than having a front row seat to it. So obviously the complexion of this race dramatically changed.
Yeah, well, that's what you kind of suspected, Jeff.
Yeah, it really was. First, we thought there might have been some contact being so close across the line, but when you're running 150 miles an hour, a tenth of a second is actually a pretty big gap when you cross that line. And just unfortunate for Heinrich, a mistake of his own down there into the braking zone takes him out of contention. And there, a lot heavy damage to that car. We didn't really see the damage looking at from our previous thing, our previous camera shot.
Well, those tire barriers, they're obviously in front of that pit wall, and I think when you see, even with the barriers there, those tires there, you see a car that gets into the wall like that, it's just not going to be a lot of give, obviously. So, I think Heinrich got away with one in a way. I mean, that's a badly damaged car, but it could have been a lot worse. So, tough break for him at this stage. Getting back to what I was talking about just a little bit ago here, it just, you're talking about Civics. You're talking about GLIs, you're talking about GTIs, 155 miles an hour here. It just tells you what these cars are capable of.
Yeah, and Saturday during the test days here in the Cobalt was at 158 miles an hour. So John Schmidt at 156 so far with our top speed. With this cooler temperatures, I think we might even see some guys into the 160 mile an hour mark. And we're talking about sport compact cars here.
Yeah.
And these are production-based tub cars. These aren't tubular frame built cars. We start with a piece of paper, design a car. This is, you add some suspension to it, you add the safety equipment, throw on a set of race tires and a good set of brakes, and you come and go racing. And great job by the SCCA officials here. The safety crews here got those cars fixed and replaced, and they followed the pace car around the full oval through turn number 1 and turn number 2, avoided the road course, so we're able to go back to green here a lot quicker.
Yeah, smart move here, and that's in our meeting. The steward said we'll do what we need to do to avoid an area while it's being worked on if need be, and save a little time, and that's exactly what they've done. So we haven't heard an official word yet, but see, the lights are still on the pace car. We were told that sometime after the bus stop, the lights will go out on the pace car if we're going to get a restart. I suspect we'll see it this time.
I got to think so, especially with the pace car, that MX-5, that brand new 2016, leads that field around NASCAR turn 1 and 2 to make that lap shorter, that we should be going green here this next time by.
Well, we'll watch for it right here. Lights still flashing on the pace cars. They're up now into Speedway 3.
You got to be careful when you go around the NASCAR oval of turn 1 number 2. We haven't been on that track so far, that part of the track so far this whole week. I get a lot of buildup on these tires with as hot as they are. It looks like that number 1 to go out of the pace car.
So we may not yet get the green flag. And what we're not talking about, they got the car moved, Jeff, but we haven't seen a shot of it. Was there some wall repair that needed to be done? Maybe that's the other thing. And where the report we're getting now is it's a debris cleanup, and that would make sense because there was a fair amount of it down in that area.
Yeah, just avoid that situation, like you said, either the cut time for the pace lap or avoid the situation. This appears to be a case of trying to avoid turn number 1 to let those crews get that part of the track cleaned up, as there's completing lap number 9. It'll be 5 laps to go the next time they cross the line.
Yeah, just talking about it, Ian Gervin, who had that moment, obviously, with Carl, he came in here as the Northern Conference Majors champion in this category. So, that's part of that hard work we're talking about that you put in to get here. we're getting a confirmation, one more pace lap, then we go green. A couple of the other competitors that are out in this one, Steve Rose in the number 71, that's the high yield Mazda RX-7. Steve, the 2015 champion in this category in the Southeastern Division. John Schmidt, who we're watching right now, lead this one, the Northeast Conference Majors champion in this division. And you put in an awful lot of time. Anthony Simmers, who sits second right now, the STU Nationwide Points title winner. So there's some guys that have put in some serious time here this season.
Yeah, they've done a good job all across the country here making this happen. That's what the majors has brought about for all the categories here, giving a chance that you could run in your division or your conference, so to speak, qualify for the runoffs there. But if you want to go to some other conferences, maybe you live somewhere but you race somewhere else, you can go for a nationwide points battle as well. And I got to think that that's really going to open up a lot more, like you see when you said there's 12 guys and gals here making their first start just in this class for the runoffs.
Gives them that opportunity. Carl, obviously, second in Western Conference Majors competition this year, so a good season for him as well. So just want to do let some folks know about some of the real strong achievements by a number of the drivers that are running here today, and you just hate to see this kind of thing happen. Charles Lowrance, by the way, in the number 50 Firehouse Billboards Auto Technique Mazda Miata, a car that you thought might come alive a little bit later in the going year, was second in this class in the Southeastern Conference this year as well. So some great achievements here. Now we're starting to see the pace pick up just a little bit in anticipation of a green.
Yeah, try to get that, get back around through the oval out of turn number 6 here as quick as we can, because time is starting to expire here. It'll be 4 laps to go when they cross the line again. Had a great shot of Oscar Jackson in that Scion. Way to be rewarded for the build of that car, coming just for the runoffs. No testing time. Its first laps were here during the test days over last weekend, and rewarding everybody for their hard work, sitting third right now in our STU category.
Yeah, he's a few miles an hour in straight line through the speed traps off of John Schmidt and Anthony Simmers in front, and maybe of greater concern to him is Ian Mullen, now that caution has brought Ian right back into the mix here. So Oscar may have his hands full here in going for a podium, but what a story if he can do it, as you said, with a car that really a brand new builder. We just had a shot at William Fee. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do now from 7th on this restart. He's already made up half of the spots from 14th to 7th. See what he can do here in this last few laps of this one. Looks like green's coming up soon, Jeff.
And we'll see if the torque plays a matter as well here with that normally aspirated Civic at the front of our field and the turbocharged Volkswagen behind him, the big torquey Volkswagen behind. Will that play a factor here? I think if Simmers can get around Schmidt, he might be able to keep him at bay in the infield and then open that lead up once he gets to put that power down on the oval.
Well, we're about to find out, aren't we?
We'll see how it plays out now.
It is that time here as we are about to go green and decide our STU national champion for 2015 here at the National Championship Runoffs, presented by Garmin Verb. Hope you're ready to get back into some high-speed coverage, presented and brought to you by Mazda here at Daytona International Speedway. Lights are out on the Miata pace car, and the leaders of the report will be working lap 11 of 14 when we go to green. So just be completing lap 10, working 11. Pace car should be making its move down into pit lane here. And now John Schmidt going to be leading him around in the Honda Civic out of Sunbury, Ohio. And, ooh, the green flag flies, and a very aggressive move by Ian Mullen, and he's already by Oscar Jackson, and he got himself one heck of a run as they now come funneling down into turn 1. And look at Oscar, going to come right back around the outside and try and reclaim that spot.
A little better brakes, it appears to be on that Scion over the BMW, and generally don't see that, as BMWs have some great brakes, and he's able to get the pass remade back down into the exit of turn number 1.
That's interesting. We saw that off by Mullen, and I see something hanging underneath the car. I wonder if that might be a brake duct that's come off, and once you get up to speed and get on those brakes a couple of times, he did overshoot turn 1 on that one moment here. We'll have to see what happens, but up front right away, Schmidt and Simmers find themselves a good almost 10 car length gap in short order.
And Simmers doing what he needs to do, putting the pressure on John Schmidt, closing right up and behind him as he comes out of the west horseshoe onto this little chute back through turn number 6, and then get on the oval. If he can stay in that draft, maybe slingshot down into the bus stop. I got got to think that's his only hope.
Well, he sure diamonded the International Horseshoe there, trying to get a run to stay close. Now he does the same thing up onto the banking as they are up in Speedway 2, now 3. And now it's just, this is going to tell us here who's got what in terms of straight edge. Schmidt in that normally aspirated Civic has been awfully quick, and that car's so slippery.
Well, he got a little bit loose coming onto the oval there, and that let Simmers close in. But just the power out of that normally aspirated Civic, doing a great job as he pulls away from the Volkswagen on the oval.
And then here's this battle, and look at this. Is Mullen now going to try the outside and just gets in too hot and does it again? That's what he did before. I think he's got some serious brake issues in that BMW, and that now has given Oscar third unto himself.
Absolutely able to clear of Ian Mullen now for that third place, and that's a development for this car. We're only going to see him get that car faster and faster. Of course, Oscar Jackson Jr. from Jackson Racing, his dad just notorious with supercharger kits for Hondas and Miatas way back in the late 80s, early 90s. So the second generation of racers coming up through in this STU category.
Notorious in the good sense of the word.
Very good.
Absolutely. Yes. Boy, I'll tell you what, you could see there under the brakes, John Schmidt absolutely working on the wheel, and he ran well wide there. I think he was in just a little bit too hot. He really was fighting the wheel to hang on to it, but just one of those scenarios where Simmers was in the wrong spot to try and be able to do anything.
Yeah, not close enough to make a move, and Simmers could be buying his time a little bit, not using all the track there, is trying to do a more point and shoot and use the power of that Volkswagen to stay on there. And there's a Miata down to the inside, parked over to the left into the kink, and you see some smoke through there, so possible failure of that Mazda Miata.
Well, you don't see that very often, but pulled off track to the inside of the kink. Can't quite pick the number up on that car at this stage. As we go back, there is some great racing unfolding elsewhere in this battle. Oh, there's McPhee!
Oh, and he's pulled off on that bypass road of the International Horseshoe, come to a stop, and that great run that he had a little bit earlier, coming from 14th to the 7th, has now expired there. He was up to 6th place before that problem.
That is frustrating for sure to have that problem happen here as we are watching a good scrap unfolding here. The number 43, Tom Little, in that lime green machine. In front of him, Charles Lowrance and Steve Rose, a couple of car lengths up in front in that number 71, and able to ease away just a little bit at this point. Rose in that, it's a little older car, the RX-7, still pretty competitive in this class.
Yeah, not sure what that is, what year that RX-7 is, but 1979 to 1985 was that model year, so that's competing up against these newer chassis cars. And like Hayward Wagner said at the beginning of the show, if you can find a rule set that matches a power to weight that fits in the class, you can come running this STU category.
Boy, that's a great battle that's unfolding with these guys. Also in the mix, the number 141 of Gary Frierson, the G&A Inc. machine. Look at this battle, Jeff.
Look at that, 3 generations of Mazda there with the Mazda RX-7, the EMX-5, and then the Miata behind that. Great run. Of course, our online coverage brought to you by Mazda here, so a great machinery there from Mazda.
Oh, I'll tell you, what a great race, too, that these guys have put on. But now these two really in their own little scrap here is clearing them as they come through here. I think that was Charles Lowrance who really put a move on him and just cleared everybody. Back to our battle for the gold medal. A couple of car lengths. That's it.
Yeah, John Schmidt able to hold Anthony Simmers at bay currently with only 2 laps to go. It should be white flag next time by for your leader, John Schmidt, doing double duty here, as well as Oscar Jackson Jr. They're both John Schmidt Jr. is, look at Simmers down to the inside here of the horseshoe, trying to make that move, and shutting the door was John Schmidt.
Yeah, I think Schmidt realized that he was going to, if he left that door open, there was going to be somebody filling it, and he quickly turned in a little bit sooner, and you could turn in. He wasn't alongside, so that was okay. But again, now there, that cost Simmers big time. He just didn't get through 6 well at all.
Yeah, had no front grip in that Volkswagen GTI, just washed out there out of the exit of turn number 6. And the worst part is that's going to cause him to lose the draft as he comes out of NASCAR turn number 2, down the super stretch, backstretch into the bus stop.
In a case, maybe just pushing a little bit too hard, sensing an opportunity, and then just overdriving the corner.
Absolutely. You see that opening, you go for it, and you just let your foot off that brake pedal a little bit. The adrenaline excitement kind of gets to you, and you see the result. 10 more car lengths there. It's like, I believe that's the Mazda Miata, the number 43 car.
I think you're right.
Just Thomas Little.
Yeah, he was right in the middle of that great battle, and he's had a problem here as we go back watching the 45 of Simmers now. He's got a lot of ground to make up, but as we said, white flag coming out this time by, and there's the tell, isn't it? You can't even see John Schmidt in the shot right now.
No, that's how much the draft plays a factor here. Once you lose that draft, it is over for you. As John Schmidt pulling a huge lead. It was a half second the time before. It's well over almost 8 to 10 seconds, and not sure a problem with Anthony Simmers. So Ian Mullen might not be out of this, even with his problems that he's had sitting back and forth. Could squeeze out a podium.
Wow, that went from a half second, as you said, Jeff, to 5. I mean, that was huge. I think clearly Simmers must have been, developing some sort of an issue here. The problem was when you lose that draft, like you talked about, you find yourself, when the guy that you're chasing is quicker in a straight line, you're done.
Yeah, you can't catch up again, even as good as your car might be on the road course portion of this track. To get back to the oval, you just cannot recover.
Through the kink, final lap, Schmidt 5 seconds clear at the start-finish line. He may even be easing away a little bit more. Simmers, and the question for Simmers is, if he does have an issue, he is going to have Oscar Jackson, who is throwing down some laps here. On that last lap, though, he was able to run a lap that was still a 10th quicker than Oscar Jackson, Simmers did, regardless of whatever the problem might be.
Yeah, not sure what that issue is with that car, but a 2:13 for Simmers and a 2:11 for Oscar Jackson Jr. a little bit earlier. But John Schmidt, a lot of pro racing experience from that Honda America racing team. Hart on the side of this car runs his Honda Prelude in our STL category. A little bit later tomorrow, you'll see him in another Honda tomorrow. So doing a good job. Can he hold it together? Just a bus stop to go, and NASCAR turn 3 and 4 to get a national championship.
Boy, what a race it'll be. And as we said, he's had a silver and a bronze, but never had that gold draped around his neck. Well, he's through the bus stop. All he has to do now is bring it around Speedway 3, 4, and through the tri-oval here at Daytona International Speedway, and bring home, finally, that gold medal. What a day he's had. It's been eventful for sure, watching what happened with Eric Heinrich in front of him, avoiding that deftly. Now maybe bringing that Hoosier Red Line Honda Performance Development Civic through for a gold medal. Into the tri-oval he comes. STU National Champion for 2015 is John Schmidt. Just a great drive. Simmers is going to bring that Hoosier, Rebay, and United Motorsport VW GTI home in second. And I'll tell you, coming up quick was Oscar Jackson out of Chino, California, that Jackson Racing, BF Goodrich, and Hasport Scion FRS. He really put together, look at that, a 2:10.2 on that last lap. He made up 2 seconds on Simmers. He was just too far back, but a good run nonetheless. Fourth is Ian Mullen, and we are waiting to see Greg Goss. There he comes, and Greg Goss will complete the top 5. But John Schmidt, your 2015 STU National Champion.
Yeah, did a good job in that Honda Civic SI. Not what we expected here. A lot of carnage and a lot of, fatalities here as we see cars strewn across this racetrack here. So a lot of reliability problems for a lot of cars here. But John Schmidt doing a great job getting the win, holding it together. A lot of supporters for this guy as he's had a very great career, continuing it on here in the SCCA National Championship runoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, his last medal came in 2000, so this one's going to feel pretty sweet. 15 years on, he earns the gold, and he did it, as I said. I mean, he was in the hunt, certainly, and then he had to do some pretty good evasive driving, and then he had to just lay down laps when he was being pursued by Anthony Simmers. I mean, every time he needed to execute, Jeff, he did.
Yeah, he did a good job every time he needed to. And that's the key there, is you don't need to do it every single lap. You just need it to win it when you do it, and then go ahead and get that podium spot.
So he's enjoying this long cool-down lap, knowing at the end of it he'll be pulling into pit lane, and when he stops, Hayward Wagner will be grabbing an interview with him, and they'll be putting that gold medal around his neck. Waited a long time for it. Finally gets to happen. And this has got to be tough here. You want to savor this moment, let that cool down lap last a while, but you want to feel that medal around your neck too, and hustle that car and bring it in here. And again, wow, what good things we might be seeing from that Scion in this category.
Yeah, who knows how that's going to play out. Of course, that shows you the potential of a rear-wheel drive car. You can supercharge it. You make the weight battle. They still need some more adjusting to that car. It's a little bit overweight right now at 3,050 pounds for that little roadster, so to speak, from the Scion two-seater. So we'll see if the SCCA technical staff can play with that a little bit and adjust that car, maybe get some more interest in bringing that Subaru BRZ and Scion FRS platform into club racing.
Well, and as he brings in that Honda Civic, here's a thought for you folks. First place, a Civic. Second, a GTI. Third, a Scion FRS. Fourth, a BMW. Fifth, a S2000. Sixth, a Miata. Seventh, an RX-7. So in the top 7 there, 6 different manufacturers and 7 different makes of car. Pretty good variety. I think those SCCA Tech guys have got it close. And as you said, fitting that FRS in there, they're close already. Well done indeed. And here comes Schmidt getting the direction, and that's the mark right there. And here's Bruce Foss from Hoosier, as he always so in and involved with what's going on in club racing. One of the, not just for his tire company, obviously, but also just a great ambassador for SCCA club racing. He just loves it, and just a treat. And I got to tell you, he's helped me when I first started doing club racing, and I don't even want to say how long ago it was. He helped me out, and he is willing to help people out to get a start, and that is a great thing indeed. And that helmet is coming off. That means Hayward is going to be close to ready right down there. It's going to be one happy man. There it comes, the Hoosier around the neck and the microphone through the window. Hayward?
John Schmidt, a very clean drive for you this race. A lot of stuff going around you. Let's start with the incident with Eric in turn 1. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, his car had been loose the whole race, and he was really just got it a little too loose, tried to go back to power, and then he was turning around. I just tried not to T-bone him when he got there. So.
Now, obviously, that created a great opportunity for you, but an opportunity that was risked when the caution came out. What were you thinking during those yellow flag laps? Did you think you could make a gap?
I wasn't sure. The turbo cars are really torquey, and so they'll pull on you, so I just need to get good, clean restarts, and we did.
Now, obviously, Bruce was just over here shaking your hand from Hoosier. You've got some support here from Honda. Talk about the folks that helped you get here.
Well, Bruce is one of my main supporters. He adopted me in like 1998, and he's always had faith in my driving, so I'm really glad I could win it for him. And we get support from HPD and Honda of America and Redline Oil.
Well, congratulations to you. You're going to get to do one more lap with the checkered flag. A little thumbs up for the camera before we move back. Anthony Simmers. Anthony, are you surprised to end up in the second spot here?
Not at all. Only you guys missed it when you called it in the magazine.
A great answer. It seemed like I saw on the last couple of laps, I saw what looked like a little bit of styrofoam that came out from under the car. Did you get into one of the signs or something like that?
I don't think I hit anything. I actually lost my power steering with about a lap and a half to go, and that's why I had to back up because I could barely get it around the corners. But, yeah, I'm really happy to be in second. We had a lot of problems with the car again this year, so improved from third last year at Laguna, and see what happens next year.
All right, we've only got one step left to take on the podium. Congratulations to you on the second spot here. And we're going to move back here to Oscar Jackson in the Scion. Oscar, you're carrying one of the most famous names in sport compact tuning on the car. How proud are you to come here and put that name on the podium?
You know, it's been a dream to get on the podium here at Runoffs. My dad and Lance, they've done a lot of racing here, and it was cool to get on the podium. But you know, we're a heavy car, and the guys in the class are pretty fast, so we were at a little bit of disadvantage on the straights. But you know, we did really good. So you know, everything for the guys at Jackson Racing, all of our guys are back at home. BFG. We have Goodrich tires. They hung on the whole time, and it was really easy to race until the end. And, yeah, SCCA, thanks. It's been a great time.
You were putting together some pretty good laps there towards the end. Did you think you could run the Volkswagen down?
Yeah, he looked like he was hurt. So I was working real hard to get him. You know, I just do my laps and do my race pace because I know I can run the same pace the whole time and run hard till the end.
Great. Well, congratulations to you on the podium finish. We're going to go back upstairs. A little thumbs up to the camera before we go.
Boy, he earned it. Nice job, Hayward. And, yeah, you talk about those laps he was turning. How about this? Last lap of the race, turned his fastest lap of the race, that 2:10.294. Coming on that final lap as he put his head down, he said, going after Simmers, who looked a little wounded. Boy, he was pushing it, Jeff.
Yeah, he sure was. Really, it's sort of that dog chasing the rabbit there. You see him up there, and it's like you've got the carrot dangling. Let's go get him, let's go get him. And unfortunately, I think there was one more lap to go with the power steering problems that Simmers had. I don't think he could have held off Oscar Jackson.
Yeah, anybody who's driven a car just on the street when the power steering goes out, you know how tough it is. Well, then imagine trying to get it with the loads up on the banking and being able to deal with it. Tough last few laps for Anthony Simmers. Still, though, the silver right behind John Schmidt. Oscar Jackson completing the podium and getting the bronze. Then Ian Mullen, looked like fighting brake problems, ends up in 4th. Greg Goss, a good run to 5th. Gary Frierson into 6th. 7th, Steve Rose. 8th, Eric Thompson. Then Charles Lowrance in 9th. And again, just a great day completing the top 10. Eric Thompson bringing it home. So an eventful race, and in some cases far too eventful for some of these teams and drivers, obviously. Really early ends for a couple of the guys that struggled here. But in the end, John Schmidt earning this one, no question about it. But it looked like it was Heinrich's to lose, obviously, and unfortunately it sounds like he just made that little bit of a mistake. But it all started on that first lap with this moment, and Carl Young, big impact there. Good news was we saw that car, even though it was being towed away, it was free rolling away. That's the good news. Here's the first of the big moments for that number 155 BMW, and then for Heinrich, this was it.
Yeah, heartbreaking for him, leading the race, gets the car loose, hits the wall, but it was John Schmidt getting the win in STU and a national championship here at Daytona.
Yep, and enjoying that cool-down lap. It was a very special one for him indeed, and then was able to go out on that victory lap, flying the flag with the gold medal around his neck. And that wraps up our coverage of the Run to the Medals in STU here at the 2015 SCCA Runoffs, presented by Garmin Verb. This 52nd running being brought to you by Mazda. For, again, Hayward Wagner down in pit lane doing a great job. For Jeff Lepper, I'm Greg Creamer. It's been a treat here to bring you coverage of this Runoffs. A lot more to come. Make sure you check out all the coverage over the course of the weekend. We'll see you next time. The 2015 SCCA National Championship Runoffs, presented by Garmin Verb, is being brought to you by Mazda. Mazda, driving matters.
16 wide eyes. Driver's license, took 2 tries, bought a Roadster secondhand. Playing parties with the band, loaded up, off to state. Hijinks, tailgates, starter, midsize, family cruising. Now in the garage, something new reminds you of when you were you.
It's time to face facts. You're a gearhead. You wish the freeway on-ramp was your personal racetrack. Well, buckle up, buddy, because the Sports Car Club of America wants you. With 40,000 members and events across the country, the SCCA has all the excitement you can handle. Dance the blacktop two-step with SCCA Solo. Get down and dirty with SCCA Rallycross. Or go wheel-to-wheel with SCCA Club Racing. Hit the track with the SCCA, where America's best drivers race.